everyone. So this is me. So as David said in his introduction, I'm an autism advocate, facilitator, keynote speaker, author, neurodiversity expert, and family duet expert.
Wow.
So today I am going to be talking to you about my vision and also introduce you to what I do and what I'm all about. So I'm doing this presentation a little bit differently for those of you that have seen me present before. So my vision is for a world where all people with autism and other neurodiversity are accepted, integrated, and respected as valuable members of society, no matter what their ability. So today in my presentation, you're going to hear me use words like neurotype, neurotypical, neurodiverse. Okay, so they're terms that you will hear us that work in this area use, but I would like to also, part of the importance of this work is to spread awareness and to spread knowledge so that everybody knows when we use these terms what we're talking about. And also to, just to start with those words, so the neurodiverse, neurotypical, neurodiverse, what do they suggest to you? What do you think they mean or what they're taken from?
Something to do with the brain.
Yeah, so it has to do with the brain and the wiring of the brain. So people with neurodiversity and with autism and ADHD, their brains are wired differently. So, and this is another thing that I'm very passionate about in my work. I'm really trying to come away from thinking that it's a disability. It isn't. It can be disabling and obviously gives a lot of challenges, but it's not. To see it as a disability is wrong in the sense that we need to actually develop a better understanding of what it is, what it means, and how we can support these people to actually thrive in their life. So, and also too, what's really important to notice today too, what I'd like to let you know is that with autism and ADHD, with these two conditions, which are neurodiverse, and what we're recognising now, and experts that work in this field are recognising, is that ADHD and autism sit under the one umbrella, and then underneath these two conditions, if you like, for want of a better word, there are comorbid conditions that will always sit with those. So you might have dyslexia, you might have dyspraxia, you might have something called dysgraphia, you could have sensory processing disorder, ODD, or anxiety issues commonly sit with these conditions. So all people with these conditions have these issues. So, and you know, to give you an idea of a neurodiverse person when you think of disability, so Jonathan has autism and I have ADHD. You don't look at us as being disabled. So that's what my message is about, right? Is that these people are not, they're not disabled. We just need to look at a way of supporting them better. So this is one of my taglines, putting the awesome into autism. So I'm actually writing a book at the moment, and this is the title of the book. So people with autism are often very creative. They have the ability to think outside the box. They have great empathy for others' feelings, so this is a myth that they don't have empathy. They're very sensitive, they make loyal friends, and they're loyal employees. So that's what I want to get across to you today, is all of the positives about people with people with neurodiversity, and all of the value that they bring to society and the value that they bring to the workplace and also to the education space as well. Because the three areas that I believe that we're failing them in is education, the workplace, and the justice system. And they're the three areas that we really, really need to address. So, you know, as an employee, they're faithful, they're loyal, they'll stick to the letter, and they will follow instructions to the T. But they're also often very creative as well and have very good ideas to offer. So, it's not a disability. It's a different ability, it's a neurotype. So what is a neurotype? It is the name given to one individual form of wiring. Okay, so the so-called normal, or neurotype, is referred to as neurotypical. So people that don't have, basically that aren't neurodiverse are neurotypical. So it's probably the normal, as we would call it. And it's what we once most thought of as the most common being typical form of wiring, hence the name. But I don't necessarily think that it is as typical or as normal as we think, because we know that people with neurodiversity do something called masking, particularly women. I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until 2 years ago.
Masking, you say?
Masking, yeah. So, and girls are particularly good at it. Jonathan will back me up on that, Steve will too. So we mask. So women and girls are highly underdiagnosed with neurodiversity because they see, they watch, they copy behaviours and they mimic. So that's what they do, and then leads to other much worse mental health conditions, bipolar and things like that, because they spend their whole life masking, and there are males that mask as well.
Really well.
So turning disability into disability. So everyone is worthy and should be given the support and opportunities to achieve their dreams and goals. So this is something that's really, really important to realise, and this is where I do a lot of my advocacy work in the education space and with schools, but I also work in workplaces as well. So my passion is to drive this concept. To me, this concept is pivotal in changing the way that people think and what we think of as disability. Everyone should have the same trajectory in life, but typically those with ASD and other challenges don't. So to give you an idea of what I mean is your normal and neurotypical person has a trajectory like this. They go to preschool, they go to kindy, they go to primary school, they go to high school, then they usually go into some sort of further education, or they go into the workplace. Person with a disability, any disability, whether it's neurodiversity or anything else, their trajectory tends to be like this. They start off like all the rest of us, okay, but then they get a diagnosis. Then then what happens is they might get sent to a special school, so they're already not mixing with the mainstream. If they do go to a mainstream school, quite often they're in units and they're not mixing with the mainstream anyway. Then they go to a special school, then they're in like these special employment programs, which often end up with them being unemployed and unemployable because the programs often don't fit their needs and don't have an understanding of their needs. Then they end up in this community housing, so the trajectory, and then their health. So, like, to give you an idea of health, the average life expectancy of a person with autism is 54. It's less than that of our Indigenous population. So that gives you an idea of when I'm talking about health. And their unemployment rate is higher than the general unemployment rate in Australia. So it's statistically, it's pretty tough. People don't realise those things.
It's in the 30% range.
Yeah, that's right. So seeing the able and not the label. So this is what I do when I work with families, schools and workplaces. This is what I want to do. So I want to harness the skills of neurodiverse people and teach people how to utilise them. Everyone has the right to a meaningful life where they feel they're valued and as valued members of society. So to give you an idea of a girl that I'm working with at the moment, she's 13 and a half, she's in year 8. I got her back to school last year and towards the end of year 7. She hadn't been to school for 3.5 years. Okay, she was really, well, obviously not mixing with society, was being homeschooled, didn't lack confidence, all of that. She hasn't been to school for 3.5 years. She's kind of been homeschooled, but not really, because of her anxiety levels and that is so high. Now, she struggles with maths and all that, which is common, okay? But she's really creative. She can hear a song and play the riff or the guitar straight away. She writes songs, she writes poetry, she's incredibly artistic, okay? But the education space does not harness these abilities. It's all about, so she's in the dumb maths table, that's what she tells me. So all of those things are affecting her self-esteem. They're not looking at her skills or her talents. They're looking at, this is because schools are so heavily institutionalised that this is what we're pushing her into, rather than looking at what she's good at. And this is the same, happens in the workplace as well, and it happens because through no fault of anybody's, there's not the knowledge.
Yeah. Nothing unique.
So every individual, who's neurodiverse will experience, and this is something that I just wanted to get you to understand today, sensory overload differently. So it will not be the same for any two people. Now there's a saying, one person with autism, one person with autism. So, and all of us who are neurodiverse have sensory issues, okay? So so what sensory issues are is, really good way is often the world is too bright, too fast, too noisy, it's just too much. So our sensory systems are much more affected than other people's sensory systems. So like for me, I hate going to shopping malls, I can't stand them. For my son, it smells and things like that, like really fulfilment, but also his auditory processing is really, really highly affected. And if Harry was here, he'd be able to tell you about that. So there are different things, so their sensory systems are really, really affected. So what happens is they have these meltdowns because it gets too much for them. So to give you a quick example, in the workplace, one thing you might not be able to stand smell. So it's so it could be the smell of fish. Someone's eating a tuna sandwich in the workplace and they can really, really set you off. Then all of a sudden there's a loud bang and you've got auditory issues and that then sets off. You think about your nervous system, okay? So these are all things that harm your nervous system. And then there's someone in the workplace that's wearing a perfume that really, really sets you off and you can't stand it and it smells too overwhelming. So if you think of a child at school, they get home and they melt down. In the workplace what happens is adults go home and they retreat, okay? But this is what I want you to understand is meltdowns are a sign that surroundings or happenings at the point in time are overbearing. So meltdowns can occur because of a multitude of sensory overloads happening one after the other that the individual has no control over. So when you're in a shopping centre and you're seeing people have tantrums and kids have tantrums, that's what is happening. So I'll just skip forward a little bit, but this is just to show you my family joy model. So this is the model that I work with and that I work with families with. And so my central point is joy, and I work with them to achieve better relief, balance and happiness. I do this through looking at these three critical elements, and then in the program I address all of these. So just to give you an idea of what I've got coming up, I've got a free masterclass coming up, one next Monday and one next Thursday. Then I've got a new 12-week program coming up that launches on the 25th of February. It's $3,500. It's a full 12-week program, but you get the resources as well, which I showed you before. And you get 12 weeks, it's in a group format, but it's an hour and a half with me every week, plus unlimited phone calls, emails, all that sort of thing. And if you're an NDIS participant, you can claim it on NDIS. And the last thing that I've got coming up is a workshop with Harry and Sunny. And what that is, Harry and Sunny and I run this workshop before. It's called Nurture Your Spectrum, with great success. And so it's for parents of children with autism, and it helps transform the overwhelm that parents so often feel into hope and clarity. And we're holding that on the 20th of Feb. From 10 to 1, it's $300 per person, but again, if you have NDIS, you can claim that as well.
Brilliant.
Wow. I do have flyers here for the programs as well. If anybody wants to pick one up, I'll just leave them over here.
Brilliant. I'll take it for you.
Okay.
So questions.
Jane, Patricia, what is the easiest thing that we can do when we find someone with autism?
Well, how can we best refer you or let them know?
How much question is this?
So that's a really good question. So Andrew, I actually had, I run a workshop for management and leadership as well, called Leading on the Spectrum, which I run with another company. So yesterday, one of the attendees of the workshop actually called me. She's the manager of public service department. They have somebody in the workplace that they suspect is neurodiverse. Of course, never declared, so they don't actually know. So what she's done is she's called me. She's asked, so what I'm going to do is go and meet with the management team. We're going to talk about some of the issues and with what's happening and how to better support this person in the workplace, but also to give management skills to be able to manage this person better for them to realise their potential.
So how can we best, so say I have a friend going on my child, I don't know what to do. How would I best go? I need you to see Patricia because I think that I go have to go to the doctor.
Yeah. So, and the thing is too, as you all know, I can help people with that diagnosis pathway if they're not there yet.
Yeah.
And the thing that I do offer to everyone all the time is people to ring me and people call me and I will speak to, it doesn't matter how long I talk to them before. But the other thing I do is I offer free Zooms for an hour where they can just jump on and just talk to me because sometimes that face-to-face stuff. So I'm really happy just to meet with people, chat to them, talk to them.
That's really
And
good.
take
That's a
it
good
to the
one,
next
yeah.
steps.
That's good. I like it. And is there anything that we can do is there anything you need to look out, know, to support you, to refer you? Is there anything in particular?
Just if you recognise the people that are people that are having problems, issues with their children, like you said, they're talking to you, you know, like willow beans and little mums, but also too in the workplace too, if you're noticing any issues or you're thinking, oh, that person might be neurodiverse, something that I've said here today kind of makes you think, oh, maybe there is something going on, or just, you know, to refer them either to me, to my business, but also like to Jonathan as well, too, because Jonathan primarily works with adults.
And Stephen
Yeah,
as
and
well.
also on you Steve.
Steve, yeah.
We've got the trio here.
Because Steve's program is amazing. I'm going to have a one-on-one with him soon
Yeah.
to talk for 18 to 35-year-old males, isn't it? Yeah. So,
So I know.
Patricia, okay.
Oh, sorry, last one. It's quite interesting that ODD, something that I've never heard about before. I don't know if that's just me being naive when it comes to disabilities. But it's something that the symptoms that you did, I was researching obviously what was going on. And it's something that I think my brother is going through exactly right now. I'm 1 of 8. He's, he's his 7th kid. He's currently in year 9 and he's going through so much trouble. He's super rebellious. He's in a private school and he's been asked to leave 3 times. The next one's the last strike and he's gone. Mum and Dad don't see it as an issue that comes to something like that. I don't think they're very behind the fact that they will support.
Exactly right. It sounds like the 7th child syndrome.
What would the process be? Would it be easier for me to come and bring my brother through you, or to go to the doctors, or to go? It'd be easier. What would be the first step or process to being able to be diagnosed, or make this aware to my parents that this is actually something that's going on mentally, not just him behaving?
maybe you and I have a chat first. We talk about it and talk how to approach your parents and talk to them. Because I'll just tell all of you in the room really quickly. With these kids, like him being suspended or expelled or whatever, that's common. And what's happening is that's that sensory overload. And I know he's a little bit older now, like you said, he's in year 8. But you imagine if you're 5 or 6 years old, and you're in a classroom, you're getting all this overwhelm, and also they have great empathy, so they'll pick up on the stress of others, okay? But they don't know what to do with it. So then what happens is that it's build up. Now, when you're 5 or 6, but even your brother too, probably because he's not being diagnosed, doesn't know what's going on, they don't know what to do with that information that their body's getting. So they're so stressed that they literally explode. So they get them throwing chairs, swearing, hitting others.
Impulsive.
And
the thing that's about him is he's very rebellious. Anything that he's told not to do, he'll do it. And it's whether it be a teacher, a brother, mum or dad, it's just like you tell him not to do something, and he has this fact that he has to do it. So I think we'll definitely have a chat about that. But it's just interesting that I had never heard about this prior.
You needed to be here today. That's the magic.
That's right.
Brilliant. Yeah, do talk. Did you want to finish off with that?
Yes, that's just, so within every child exists the most precious bud of self-identity. So to search this out and foster it with loving care is the essence of educating an autistic child.
Woohoo!